The next physical principle of Aikido that I want to discuss is a larger concept that goes along with everything else we've talked about. And it's called Nagashi. Nagashi no Ri. It's Nagashi no Ri. It's the principle of flowing. And what's implied in this is that we're moving with the man as he begins to make his attacks. And as we get into motion with him, we continue the motion. So it's back to the old physics principle. An object in motion will continue to stay in motion. We just want to continue that motion. This is a principle that takes us past where we normally hang out in our initial stages of Aikido application. Typically, when we were first learning Aikido, it takes on a very sort of blocky stop-go kind of feeling. So he comes and attacks, and I get out of the way, and there's sort of a pause, and there's sort of a pause here, and then there's sort of a throw, and it has a sort of on-off feel, like you're flipping a switch and you're flipping another switch, because it takes a little time to coordinate all the activity. I'm trying to do a particular job to him, and I want to make sure I'm monitoring everything. My conscious brain is involved, and I'm monitoring, is this right? Is my arm correct? And do I weight on the balls of the feet? All these principles I've been talking about, while you're trying to coordinate that and put it into motion with somebody swinging at you or coming up and laying a hand on you or getting a hold of you, it's a huge, complex job. Once it's in place, once the psychology or once you become imbued with these physical principles and they become most automatic, they become internalized, you are basically still monitoring everything, but you're doing so with a constant flowing movement. You don't pause to recognize each and every activity, whether it's happening correct or incorrect, and monitoring and adjusting and monitoring and adjusting. You're doing it on the fly, and you're doing it in a reference point that has a consistent flowing motion, so that if we begin to start moving in a particular direction, we just keep moving in that direction. I just don't ever let it stop. Now, I've never done the big coup de grace step. I've never laid the power onto my partner. I just never allowed it to ever come back. And so this has a different quality of feeling than we normally see. Most Aikido application you run into in books or videos or whatever, there's a big boom that does the throw. The kake is emphasized. In Nagashi no Ri, the kake takes care of itself. We deal with kazushi, we deal with motion and flowing motion, but basically once we're in motion, we just stay in motion with the man and let it conclude however it's going to conclude. And we're in no particular hurry. We'll take any number of steps, whatever the steps are required. If it winds up going all the way off into the edge of the wall or over the edge of the floor, that's where it's going to go. That's a conclusion too. It's not the one we're normally looking for, but works just as well. By training ourselves that once we get into motion in a given line, we just stay with that motion until our body is forced to change and adapt. We're exploiting the most efficient line of action that we can. We're taking a general motion. I'm turning. Why stop turning? I don't have to. I'll just keep on turning until he lays on the floor for me. And lo and behold, he does. If I start in a straight line, he comes to attack, and the straight line begins, I'll just keep walking until, yeah, here we are. It's that principle of flowing with and continuing the activity until something acts on you that causes. Now, sometimes uke will cause you to change. You'll begin to get into emotion, and you'll come to a relationship, and you'll hit a moment, and everything will change, and you'll have to go on a different line. It's just that you don't arbitrarily dictate that line. You allow that to be a reactive function of the whole system in motion, rather than something dictated by your predictive ability or your activity of strategizing in your mind. Nagashi no Ri is extremely potent, extremely powerful, and is an upper level principle that will come quite naturally once you've imbued all your activity of Aikido in your basic practice of kata and randori with the fundamental principles we've already discussed. Your posture is correct. Your eye contact, your Metsuke is correct. You're using Tegatana consistently. Your Mai distance and the functioning of reflex on Mai is gotten consistent. The whole picture starts gelling and coming together, and once it's all in place, Nagashi no Ri, the principle of flowing, becomes like an overarching, unifying activity. It all happens within a framework of flowing. So look for that in your practice. Look for taking, even in your kata practice, you may start with like number one release. We start here, and then here, and then here, and it has this tick-tock, stop-go sort of feeling. And over time, it's just a movement, a movement, a movement, a movement, a movement, a movement. The movement will become full of life. It'll become full of juice. It'll go from being a dead stop-and-go kind of set of engagement of movements into a live, fluid, alive creature sort of movement. So Nagashi no Ri brings the activity of the Aikido application to life. And that's one of the things we should be looking for when we go into Aikido. Thank you.